Greetings. This is Brad Hessel. I'm the chair of the Wake County Libertarian Party, and this is our monthly Wake Up Liberty video event. And this month, we're going to talk with Matt Laszacs. Matt has run for North Carolina General Assembly a couple of times. He ran in 2022 for a House seat, and then last year, he ran for, or was it Senate? I may get them confused. I guess it was Senate last in 2022 and House last year. And he was in a two-way race, and would have set an all-time record for the most number of votes for a House race, except that the Republicans only ran 10 candidates for 19 seats in Wake County last year. Who's the third party here? So we had several 1v1 versus Democrats, and there was another one. Ed George actually edged Matt out by a few votes.
Did a great job. Yeah.
Yeah. So Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got here?
So it's I've been on libertarian for a long time. Actually, participated in our ballot access measures when we were trying to get signatures back in the mid 2000s. Been a registered libertarian in North Carolina for quite a few years. I made my way from uh, liberal in high school to super conservative in my early 20s, and now I found my way to libertarianism just through years of reading, studying, and really just trying to find truth. And I find the most truth in classical liberalism and in libertarian principles. In 2022, after a lot of frustration with our political environment, both my wife Courtney and I just decided we have to start doing something. We can't just complain anymore, or read books, or sit on the sidelines. So I decided that I might enjoy having a reason to talk about politics, because I don't generally talk about politics at all with friends and family or anyone. So running for candidacy gives you a legitimate reason to talk to people about things and engage people. And I think the most satisfying part of doing this, number one, is meeting folks like yourself and everybody else at the WakeLP, which is a really great organization. But getting out in the street and talking to people, because just as a libertarian, it's ground up. You go talk to people, you knock on doors. That got me really outside my comfort zone, but I really enjoyed engaging with people because I found that people that you meet when you knock on their door on Sunday mornings are much less polarized than you would think, based on where the media tells us we are as a society and as a country. So politics is polarized, but people aren't. That's my thought. But here we are, after doing this twice. I've really, my Courtney's a nurse, an RN, and so just watching what nurses go through, and learning a little bit about our healthcare system in North Carolina, which is, in my opinion, run a little bit like a pyramid scheme, vis-a-vis Tony Soprano. Um, it's it's really got me, very interested in fixing something that's broken, because it's one of those things like qualified immunity. It's just so ridiculously broken. It just it it's beyond belief that it still exists as a system. So that is where my goal of finding the proverbial low hanging fruit to attack as libertarians, where we can find topics that are easy for people to agree on, that make sense, that are liberty focused. This is certainly one of them. I think this is low hanging fruit, and I'd like to attack this head on, full speed, and see if we can get some wins for liberty in the W column.
So Matt was a significant contributor to our all-time record, well over 300,000 votes for Libertarian candidates in Wake County, which is also an all-time record for North Carolina last year in 2024. And we're working this year, 2025, to parlay that momentum into uh, some effect in the North Carolina General Assembly. We've had some success with in Wake County with pushing some of the local governments to increase liberty in Raleigh, most notably where we have friendlier alcohol rules, we have friendlier zoning rules, so you can build more dense housing. We have scooters back after they were banned by a very NIMBY focused city council in 2019. And you can work out of your home legally now, which you couldn't before, there and so on. So on the state legislature side, though, there are some bills that conceivably could improve, and in a couple of cases make worse life in Wake County. And one of these is certificate of need legislation. There was a bill that has passed in the Senate, which means that it's eligible for consideration to be passed this in the short session if the House passes it. And the Courtney that uh, Matt referenced is Courtney Laszacs, his wife, who actually won an election. She she ran for Wake County Executive Committee and was elected. So she's on our executive committee. Um, she, as Matt mentioned, is a registered nurse, so there's an interest in the Laszacs family on healthcare issues. So we thought we would invite Matt, who's done some research on this particular bill, to talk a little bit about certificate of need and what the opportunities are to make a difference, not just in Wake County, but potentially, statewide. Matt, why don't you start out by explaining North Carolina's certificate of need law? How does it work? Who benefits? Who does it hurt? And give us a little bit of background.
Sure. So actually, all state certificate of need laws have their origins in federal statutes. In the early 70s, there was this idea that was put forth by Federal Trade Commission and other aspects of the federal government that said, okay, our healthcare system now is largely dominated by third-party payers. That's a market distortion. Because of that, government needs to step in and do a better job of managing supply to the available demand for services. And so what we got was a law that mandated that if states wanted to get money, it's what they always do. If you want these federal funds, you have to comply with our certificate of need laws that we're going to implement across the country. And essentially the idea just to steel man why that arose, and it's the same steelman argument currently for certificate of need laws, is that um, if we don't regulate, we being the government, if we don't regulate, if we don't step in, we won't have rural health care because nobody wants to build a hospital out in the country where there's less chance of making money, right? We won't have services for poor neighborhoods, lower income neighborhoods, and doctors won't be, and hospital systems won't be incentivized to provide lower margin services. So that's really where these laws come from. Like most things that the federal government does, or that any government does, it's, we want to do the best of intentions, right? So you see in 1986 in the Reagan administration, basically the FTC and the government, doing a 180 on that because there was by that time there was mountains of research with over a decade of the policy in place showing that these laws actually reduced access to healthcare and ran counter to the intention. So the federal government repealed those laws, but strangely, states, including North Carolina, continue to hold on to their certificate of need laws. 35 states still have certificate of need laws. North Carolina's are among the most stringent and restrictive actually in the country, which is a strange place for us to be given our political makeup. But I think what you see is that we've become a victim of entrenched interests. So this certificate of need regime has been in place. It was actually found unconstitutional early on by the North Carolina Supreme Court or one of the lower courts, but still managed to to survive. And the reason is because of those entrenched interests. You have a system that's been put in place. It favors incumbents. Those incumbents have a lot of money at stake, and they don't have to compete. So it's very difficult to remove these laws, even though there's general and broad recognition that they don't work. Specific to North Carolina, you have a couple of things in play. You have a state health coordinating council, and what they do is they determine how many medical services should be provided in the upcoming year or upcoming years. I don't remember how long their duration is. So they develop this thing called a state medical facilities plan, and through a complex, you know, and rather nebulous set of formulas, they figure out upfront how many healthcare services will be needed based on population projections and other market factors, in their opinion. And so from there, if a doctor or a hospital or somebody wants to add medical equipment, create a surgical center, open a new hospital, add beds, or anything that exceeds $4 million capital outlay, you have to put it in front of the certificate of need board, and you have an opportunity for public comment. And then a group of folks within the state health department, the Department of Health and Human Services for North Carolina, they have the final approval on whether or not this ask for a certificate of need meets and aligns with the state medical facilities plan. So it's quite a complicated process, and it's very difficult for innovations. It's very difficult for new providers to enter the market, because just like everything else the government regulates, it drives up the cost, the regulatory costs and the legal fees of trying to provide a new product or service, to the point that you basically block out all new entrants. And when you look at your current list of certificate requests, they're all major health systems. There are no quote unquote little guys in there. In the rare occasions that one of the little guys tries to open a new eye surgery facility, for example, a gentleman at Eastern North Carolina tried to do that recently. They were shot down, and they're routinely shot down. So how do they get shot down? Largely, if your service doesn't, as I mentioned before, fall within the parameters of the State Medical Facilities Plan, SMFP. That's a mouthful. It won't make it through the Department of Health and Human Services, but there is an appeal process, and there's also a public comment process. So these large systems are able to afford the appeals process, and they're able to afford the public comment process. Also, they largely drive the public comment process. So if you look at the makeup of your state health coordinating council, it's 60% people that are industry insiders. And what do I mean by industry insider? That is somebody whose day job, this is largely a volunteer position, their day job is within the healthcare industry. They're either working for the insurance companies, the hospital systems, or they're physicians. So you have about 10 folks that are quote unquote not insiders, and you have 15 that are insiders. So you can see where the pattern just is completely visible for us to see, that you have about 60% of folks that can override the other 40%. But it looks like, because the numbers are close, that when pesky people like us come around and start poking into things, they can say, well, look, it's pretty fair. With about half of this board is made up of independent people. But it's really not. So the process, as always, favors incumbents, and it favors those that have the deep pockets, and that have the ability, the legal teams, and they have their insiders placed within the government to prevent and stifle competition. And that's really what these are, is a competition stifling, rent-seeking behavior organization. And it's not good for North Carolina.
So it hurts innovation, and I guess the effects on patients are, generally speaking, that obviously there's less competition, so you're going to have higher costs and potentially less capacity, which means longer wait times, reduced access, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Anytime you have a regime in place that favors incumbents, as I said before, just makes it nearly impossible for somebody to expand and create a new or innovative service. As a matter of fact, if you look at states that have repealed their certificate of need laws, you actually see a proliferation of ambulatory care centers, for example. You have seen increased access to rural healthcare, not a decline in rural healthcare. As a matter of fact, zero hospitals have closed in states that have uh, gotten rid of their con laws. So there's absolutely no evidence to show that there was ever a need for these con laws in the first place. And there is absolutely evidence to show that these laws actually increase access to services for citizens. And I think for North Carolina in particular, we recently passed Medicaid expansion. Well, I would question the rationale of increasing access to services that don't exist, to hospitals that don't exist. We have never been able to meet the demand for healthcare in the state under our current con regime, and so now we're giving access to more able-bodied people to healthcare services that don't exist. So it would make sense to me in this environment. I think we could make a very rational and logical case to the NCGA that, okay, you passed Medicaid expansion. Now you need to do something on the supply side. So how about we do something that has already been demonstrated to show that it increases the supply of hospitals, hospital beds, ambulatory care center, and other services.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the history. I think you mentioned that the North Carolina Supreme Court ruled the law unconstitutional. If I remember correctly, that was the original law, right? That was
Right.
passed in the early 70s, but there's the law that we're operating under now is a different law that was passed subsequent to that ruling, correct?
That is correct. And I
Okay,
don't
so
remember I don't remember the name of that law or what that legislation was, but suffice to say that industry won at our expense.
have there been any changes to that law since it was enacted? I guess that was the late 70s.
Yeah, I think a little bit of kind of trimming around the edges. Nothing that takes these laws on directly. There have been a few laws passed to lower the thresholds, to lower the cost thresholds. And I think the most recent is I think they repealed the MRI provisions. So I don't think if you want to add an MRI anymore, I don't think it requires a con law, at least not to the extent that it did before. But nothing nothing of significance, just kind of around the margins here or there, uh, which I think is promising. It shows that definitely an interest uh, in trying to scale back regulation, but nothing significant as of yet. Not in my opinion.
So the bill that we're looking at now, Senate 370, is that correct?
It's 370, yes.
And what would that do?
It's a complete repeal of certificate of need laws. That's the simplest way to put it. It's a complete repeal.
The Wake LP's position on 370 is then very much in favor, I would imagine.
Absolutely. As I said before, the there are mountains of data since the 70s that these common laws don't work. There's mountains of data that they don't work in North Carolina. They don't work as intended. And to me, this is when you explain certificate of need laws to almost anyone, at least anyone who's rational, which I believe most people are, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't facially stand up. So this is an area I think we can build some consensus. I think it's also encouraging that within the Democrat Party, you're starting to see some folks that believe that in order for government to work, we have to implement supply side reforms. That is a new movement particularly within progressives. And I think that's interesting. I think as libertarians, we can tap into that. We can arm folks that are progressive with, some talking points to say, hey, look, we did this. We created a regulation that is increasing access to healthcare. Now we have to help increase services. We have to do something on the supply side. So supply side is not a bad word to a lot of progressives right now. And I think that's something we can tap into.
So talk to us about the status of the bill in the House. My understanding is since it's passed the Senate, it's now eligible to be passed this year. But in order for that to happen, obviously it would have to be passed in the House, and potentially if the House makes changes, then they'd have to reconcile any changes with the Senate passed.
Correct. So the bill passed in the Senate along party lines largely. Dan Blue and one other Democrat, can't remember her name, voted in favor of it. So it was largely a Republican passed bill in the Senate. There was a corresponding bill in the House that didn't meet the crossover deadline in May to be able to progress to be put on the docket for potential for progressing to the floor. But the S-370 bill has, because it passed in the Senate, it is now sitting in the House Rules Committee, which is largely a Republican driven right now because they do have a majority in the House. But I think it's probably tenuous at best. There's a long list of bills that made the crossover deadline. So it's tenuous at best that this bill might make its way to the floor for a vote. So it's very critical that we find some ways to, I think, lean on to garner some Democrat support for it first and foremost, because those bills are more likely, if with Democratic support, to pass to, hopefully be veto proof, if not have a better chance of withstanding a veto. I think it's also important that we garner some more Republican support for it, because as of now, nobody's really coming out in strongly favoring this in the House, at least not publicly. Nothing that I could find yet. There are a few proponents here or there. Usually they are Republicans from rural districts that probably have a lot to gain with their constituency by increasing access to healthcare, and also come from very, conservative and a bit more market liberal areas of the state. So I think it's critical that we get some support from Democrats. I think it's also critical that we make a lot of noise and push this to the forefront so that the folks that are in charge of the Rules Committee, it's just the committee within the House that determines what makes its way onto the agenda to be voted for on the floor, on the House floor, that they understand that this is something that's important to the citizens of North Carolina, and hopefully push it through during during the long session I believe that we're in right now, to get it up for a vote. So to me, it's great that it passed the Senate, but we've got a long way to go, to I think, or a lot of work to be done to get it to progress to the floor for a vote.
Well, if it's Democrats that we need, then Wake County is certainly a target-rich environment in terms of North Carolina General Assembly Democrats. If
Yeah.
someone here in Wake County is interested in helping out with this effort to push this legislation, how can they get involved?
Well, I think there's a number of things. First and foremost, write a letter, call your senator, call your House of Representatives, and make it clear to them that this is something that's important to you. I think direct engagement with the people that represent you is the first place to start. Clearly, um, and just making sure they understand that as a libertarian voter, we represent a pretty significant voting bloc within Wake County, as you so articulately identified early on in this call, right? So I think that's first and foremost. I think the other things that you can do are come down and join the Libertarian Party meetings, so we can organize around this. Uh, Help us work on media campaigns. Use your social media to promote the repeal and to promote the passage of S-370. And I think the other things that we can do are try to launch a concerted effort around, petitioning the folks at the Rules Committee to get this on the docket so that we can that it can be voted on. That's really the crucial step. So if you, as you said, if you're in Wake County, or if you're in a county that or in a district that is Democrat, let them know. Um, Another thing that occurred to me is, can we find some support from folks within the House or the Senate that have healthcare backgrounds. So we've got looks like Donna White, Johnston County, is a registered nurse. I would think that if anybody out there in Johnston County is, if that's your representative, reach out because that's a person who should understand the value of having additional employers to negotiate for better jobs and competing pay, which would be great for nurses. Better choice of employers, more choice of employers. That competition almost always, not almost, it always leads to better choices. So that's somebody to reach out to. Also, not really our neck of the woods, but Mecklenburg County. You got Carla Cunningham, uh, a registered nurse. I think it's another person to reach out to. So um, my representative Maria Cervania, it's kind of comes from the healthcare industry. I've certainly been writing her letters and petitioning there. I haven't got any real response yet. So um, Donna White, I think we've got a good person there to help support us. Chair of the Health Committee, Chair of Appropriations, Health and Human Services Committee, Vice Chair of Appropriations, and a member of the Rules, Calendar, and Operations of the House Committee, which is the very group of folks that we really want to petition to get this thing on the docket. And if anybody else knows any other representatives that are friendly to the Libertarian Party, uh, I think Ms. Dahl is one of them. Uh, People that have worked with us in the past, we should try to build some additional support and consensus there.
Great. Well, I will say that I know that our volunteer coordinator, Dee Watson, is working on plans to coordinate some lobbying efforts in the General Assembly in the House side, in particular with respect to this bill. So if you are interested in helping out, that's a lot of detail that Matt just outlined. You can let us know and you don't, by the way, don't need to be a libertarian. If you're just interested in this issue, we'll certainly work with you. Go to WakeLP/volunteer, and let's see if I have that available. Yeah, here's that page on our website, and let us know, and we will be happy to coordinate and whatever, however you're interested in helping out, writing a letter, possibly engaging in some lobbying activity, that we'll work with you. So, well, thanks, Matt. I appreciate the time, and look forward to working with you on this on pushing this legislation, hopefully to improve life for everyone in Wake County and beyond.
Thanks very much, Brad.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend.